Whiskey run on empty, now I'm on a roll. Same old road, but it's a different glow. Ain't nothing crazy, just a shift in gears. Funny how it all got clear. Used to think I had to chase the high. Now it finds me every time I try. Didn't see it coming like this. Now I'm right in the middle of it. I ain't saying I got it all, but I ain't missing what I thought. It's getting better than it should be. Little too good for a guy like me. Every door I used to push won't budge. Now they're opening up easy. Yeah, it's better than it used to feel. Like I finally got something real. If this is luck, I won't outrun what's finally right, what I've become. Too good, too right, can't lie, can't lie, can't lie. Too good, can't lie, can't lie, can't lie. I ain't even gotta try. Used to trip on every little thing, now I let it ride, let it breathe. Got a way of working out somehow, even when I don't figure it out. Got my hands where they need to be, on the wheel, not chasing what I don't need. Everything just falls in place when you quit trying to race. I ain't saying it's perfect now, but I wouldn't change it out. It's getting better than it should be. Little too good for a guy like me. Every door I used to push won't budge. Now they're opening up easy. Yeah, it's better than it used to feel. Like I finally got something real. If this is luck, I won't outrun what's finally right, what I've become. Too good, too right, can't lie, can't lie, can't lie. Too good, can't lie, can't lie, can't lie. Didn't flip a switch, didn't make a scene. Just woke up living in a better dream. Now I don't chase what I can't keep. Got everything that's chasing me. It's getting better than it should be. Little too good for a guy like me. Every door I used to push won't budge. Now they're opening up easy. Yeah, it's better than it used to feel. Like I finally got something real. If this is luck, I won't outrun.
Good evening and welcome into Apex News Above the Noise. I am Kyle Thompson.
And I'm Craig Blanton.
Craig, we are joined tonight by Shannon Denniston, a Republican candidate for the Kentucky House District 74, which includes Montgomery, Bath, and Menifee counties. Shannon Denniston is running as a conservative, property rights-focused candidate, and one of the centerpieces of his campaign is a pledge to pursue legislation aimed at ending Kentucky's property tax and shifting public service funding toward a broader state-level sales tax model. His campaign says this would make visitors and tourists help carry more of the cost of our public infrastructure. This is a big proposal, and we're going to dig into it here in a little bit. So tonight we want to get past the slogans and into the details. Shannon, thanks for joining us tonight.
Well, I appreciate it very much, Kyle. Thank you to you and Craig for having me on the show.
Well, for folks not just in Montgomery, Bath, and Menifee counties that make up the 74th, but also those folks who are here in Frankfort, who you may very well become a regular citizen, if you will, at least part-time citizen of Franklin County, and they may be hearing your name for the first time. Who are you? Why would you run for this office? And what pushed you into this race?
Great question. So I'm Shannon Denniston. I'm fourth generation Montgomery Countyan. Montgomery, Menifee, and Bath counties represent the House District 74 that I hope to be representing soon. And yes, I do plan on becoming at least a part-time resident of Frankfort. Probably will purchase a home there. Hopefully a short walk from the Capitol is my plan. So I grew up on a tobacco farm and a dairy farm. Worked sun up to sundown through spring, summer break. Most of my friends were going to Disney World or the beach. I was going to work harder and longer hours. So that's where my discipline started. I haven't stopped since then. I'm 47 years old today. I've been married.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday.
Well, not today. Sorry. But as in this year, I did just turn on the 21st of April of 47.
Okay.
So
Also, happy birthday.
That's my sister's birthday.
Thank you. Well, great. And I spent the day door knocking. I've crossed 1,200 doors now.
Wow.
Knocked. So we're making our rounds. But I have my wife Elizabeth and two beautiful daughters, Madison and Lauren. Madison's 21. Lauren is 18. Both have graduated college and high school. Lauren graduated college while she was in high school. And Elizabeth and I have been together 27 years. We've been married 23 years, getting ready to come up on our 24th wedding anniversary. And very proud of my family. We're a team and we work together. Lauren's taken over one of the family businesses, also working on her real estate license. And Elizabeth runs the day-to-day. We work from home. I worked night shift and she worked during the day when they were babies. I was able to bring her home from her full-time job over in Lexington. And ever since we worked together as a team. So some people try to compartmentalize their life. They put business in one box, put their personal stuff in another box. We kind of just keep it all in the same box. We are who we are. We're hardworking business owners. I grew up in a family. We had, I think, a little over 20 businesses. In my childhood, I could count back. And my children, if they were on here, they would tell you that they've been a part of more than 30 businesses that
Wow.
Elizabeth and I've created. So not all those businesses were successful. Most of them were not, but you have to try things to find out what works, right?
That's right.
And
Keep trying.
I love being an entrepreneur. I love seeing other people succeed. I do believe in the American dream. I still believe it is accessible, but you have to play your cards a lot differently today than in years past. Back to my childhood and growing up, my dad was a builder and developer. We built one of the first strip shopping centers on our bypass, had several businesses there. And it wasn't like a large complex, but it was just kind of, literally a strip along the bypass, and had several restaurants, or there was a restaurant or two there, and Sears, Roebuck and Company, Domino's Pizza, anchor tenants like that. And then when we had the first Mexican food restaurant in Mount Sterling. When that didn't work, Dad took the show on the road. One day I got off the school bus there and I came in and Dad was cutting the side out of the insulation box van. So we had an insulation business, and he was literally taking a grinder to the side of it and putting an awning on it. And we took the restaurant to festivals and different things. So actually had more success with that restaurant. He just had to pivot, had all that invested in the restaurant, and it didn't work. So I watched my dad kind of navigate things. Dad was active in local government as well. He was on the water sewer board, also Clark Electric board as well. He wasn't an elected official, but he did serve in those capacities to service the community the best he could, using what knowledge he had in those areas. And I didn't think that I would follow my dad's footsteps and become a builder or get into real estate. I started out building websites, and it just kind of evolved into real estate. I noticed that there's a need and no one else was stepping up to fill it here in Mount Sterling for rental homes. So we started acquiring some properties that no one else wanted. These were properties that were on the market for many months or a year, and everybody just passed over them. And I came in and I started buying them and fixing them up. And of course, people don't see those 2 a.m. me working in a crawl space, thawing out pipes and in a hot attic, when it's 100 degrees outside. They just see the results of today. So my wife and I, we worked very hard. There's been homes that she begged me not to buy, but I had a vision for them. And today we still have those properties. It's rare that we sell something, but we just enjoy working together as a family. And my kids are very active in the business. You might stop by and see them weed eating a property or cleaning a property. We're very hands-on. We self-manage our properties, and proud to be able to provide a much needed service in our community.
Well, Shannon, you're on here with a couple of serial entrepreneurs as well. So you're in
In our world.
yeah,
Great.
you're amongst friends here. You're running in an area that is diverse. But tell us, what are you hearing from people and from voters in your area and across community? What are the biggest issues that they're facing at this point?
They're taxed to death. And the 1,200 plus doors I've knocked, by far, I mean, I don't want to say every one of them, but probably 95% of them reference they're overtaxed. And they're working hard. They're doing all they can to keep up and keep the bills paid. But let's just face it, people have more month than paycheck today, and something's got to give. We work a little more now than half the year, about 195 days, I think it is, just to afford our own government. So something is wrong there. There's plenty of money for education. There's plenty of money for parks and for roads and bridges and things that we need. But the money is not going where it needs to go. I'll use education as one example. The money's getting bottlenecked at the administrative level. We have too many chiefs, not enough Indians per se. The money needs to be in the classroom. It needs to be spent on teachers and making sure they don't have to dip into their personal pockets to provide for their classrooms. So the money's there. The country of China spends about $5,000 a year. We spend about $20,000 a year to educate a child. You can homeschool a child in Kentucky today for about $500 a year. Local non-government faith-based school here in Mount Sterling, CTS, their top tier is $3,800 a year. So what if we had a voucher program? And yes, I'm talking about school choice. What if we had a voucher program where we gave each parent $5,000 per year per child? That would save taxpayers right at $15,000 for each voucher that was utilized. And as long as we had streamlined guidelines in place to make sure the children of those alternate schools are keeping in pace with children in government schools, I don't see an issue with that. Now, parents that homeschool, they seem to be the ones that have an issue with school choice, or at least that's been my experience. I've talked to a lot of people about it, and their number one concern is making sure government doesn't come into their homeschool. So for them, I would say, don't take taxpayer money and nothing changes for you. But if you're going to take a taxpayer money, then I think there needs to be a reasonable guideline, maybe an annual test or something of that nature, just to make sure that your children or child is keeping in pace with all the others.
One of the things that, and I've looked at a bunch of your campaign materials, but your campaign has made ending property taxes a major part of your platform. And you just talked about, folks across the state, but especially in your areas, give us saying that they're taxed to death. Can you give us the plain English version of what are you proposing? And then we'll get into the weeds a little bit more about how we propose to do that.
I believe when you buy your home or your automobile, your farm, your small business items, that you should own them. You shouldn't have to rent them forever from government. I don't like the idea that we're being taxed on our income and that we're being taxed on our property. I believe that the most moral way, Craig had actually suggested, would be to take the expenditures of local government, divide it by the able-bodied working adult population, and everybody gets a bill for the same amount. That's how the real world works. Now, that's not my plan, because we both, I think all three of us would agree that government doesn't operate in the real world. The next best thing to that would basically be a consumption-based tax, which is what my plan for Kentucky is. So right now we're taxing people. I call it a productivity tax. So you're being taxed. The better you do, the more you pay. And I don't like that. And it's not just, let's just look at our income tax brackets, for instance. As you climb the ladder of success, the more money you make, not just the more money you pay in, but the higher percentage of money you pay in. Not sure who came up with that idea, but that's an awful idea. How about the better you do, the smaller the percentage you pay, to create an incentive for people to do well and work hard. But these are things that, go back to probably, my college years when I started thinking about it. I actually have a notes file in my phone, and I have three different categories. I have state, federal, and local. And I've done this for years, but it's been great now where I'm in a position where I can share some of my ideas. But when people would bring forth a problem, or I would notice a problem in the market, I would put it in under one of those three topics. I didn't really realize what I was doing, but I was kind of setting the stage to start fixing government, I guess. So my plan's real simple. Right now, you pay property tax on your home, your automobile, your RV, your boat, water, things like that. Airplanes, they're taxed. Not a lot of people have airplanes, well, a lot of people have boats and RVs in Kentucky, I guess. But those items right now are currently taxed at about 1.5%. In a lot of markets, your home is typically taxed in Kentucky around 1 to 1.25%. And you can see here on the screen the Denniston plan, the tax savings breakdown. So the average home in my district right now is about $275,000 is what they're trading at. In Lexington, you're going to push closer to 300, maybe 295 to 300 now. But using that $275,000 figure at 1.25% annual property tax, you're looking at $3,437 is what you're going to pay in property tax. The average household in Kentucky owns about $40,000 worth of vehicles, boats, RVs, and aircraft. 1.5% of that is 600. We add the 600 to the 3437, you get $4,037 in property taxes per year paid by the typical Kentucky household. The typical Kentucky household has a little over 2 people in it. So you could divide that out to figure out what each adult is paying. My plan would be to switch to a sales tax base, a state sales tax based approach, consumption based, where you're in control of your spending. And under that plan, we know that the typical Kentucky household spends about $15,000 each year in items that have a state sales tax attached. So 6% of $15,000 is $600. And that's at 4%. I'm sorry. 4% of $15,000 is $600. And I believe we can do it for 3, probably a little less than 3, but I will always round up and under promise and over deliver. If I think that I can do it for 2, I'm going to tell you 3. If I think I can do it for 3, I'm going to tell you 4. So that's why it says 3 to 4. I don't want to, be inaccurate. I want to be as accurate as possible, but I want to under promise folks here. So $600, take that off the $4,037. You're looking at a total household savings of about $3,437 a year, or about 85% on what you're paying government today. The benefit here is that sales tax, it catches everybody at the register. Everyone pays. And the more that you make, the more you're going to spend. Most people spend what they make. So we're capturing tourists, we're capturing visitors, we're capturing criminals, we're capturing illegal immigrants, we're capturing people that deal in all cash. Not that that's a bad thing, but everybody gets caught and pays up at the cash register. So if you were to look at what the sales tax base has done over the past 30 years in Kentucky, I've got a great graph I'm happy to share with you guys, or maybe we'll drop it in the comments later. But it looks like a rocket starting to take off, and it's going at about a 45 degree, but now it's turned up almost straight up. And that is because our government has applied that 6% state sales tax to a lot of different goods and services over the years. So we have a much broader base now with sales tax. It's an ever increasing base. So it's unlike property tax. Property values have kind of plateaued. They'll go up and down, day to day and year to year. I don't look for property values to double or go in half anytime soon. But sales tax is like this. So wouldn't it make the most sense to tax the best base? The best base, in my opinion, to fund government services is the state sales tax. And also, it's how we're doing away with the income tax. We still have an income tax. We've reduced it from 5% to 3.5%. We're reducing it by about 0.5% per year. And each 0.5% drop represents about $700 million that we either have to shave off the budget and or add to the revenues for the state. So we have about $4.9 billion more dollars to go in Kentucky, either growing the revenues through the state sales tax base and other sources of revenue, and or cutting those expenses. Allison Ball, state auditor, recently announced $1 billion in fraud. So $1 billion can go a long way in the budget. To kind of put things in perspective, in Kentucky, we collect approximately $4.4 billion annually in property taxes. That's all forms of property tax. That represents a little less than 8% of Kentucky's overall annual budget. doesn't sound like much when you say it that way, but it's a lot of money to folks. You know, you're paying thousands of dollars on items that you bought and you will never truly own as long as there's a property tax.
Yeah. I think a lot of people get hung up in the weeds and they think, well, sales tax is at 6% right now. You're talking about raising it to 9 or 10%, and I think that's a concern. But then when you talk about the fact that, yeah, but you're not going to have an income tax and you're not going to have property taxes. Uh, do you believe that would also incentivize owning personal property, real property, if you will, and personal property at that point as well?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't have to pay a property tax, what does that look like? Let's start with people who rent their housing, because some people that rent don't feel like they're going to benefit. They might not see a reduction in their rent, at least not immediately. But what it is going to do is it's going to alleviate that upward pressure, not all of it, but a portion of it. And it's going to slow down their rent increases. The other thing it's going to do for folks who rent is it's going to help you qualify more easily to purchase a home. And for first-time home buyers, it's going to help you buy more home, or really anybody buying a home. You're going to be able to buy more home at a smaller mortgage payment by not having to escrow those property taxes. But let's face it, the money that you save, you're probably going to spend. How are you going to spend it? You're going to spend it in the marketplace. And guess what? It's probably going to be on luxury items, maybe a vacation or something. I hope you get to take a vacation or two a year to enjoy your family and all the fruits of your labor. And those are items that will be taxed at the state sales tax base level. So it just comes right back into the economy. Yes, you have to pay it somewhere. I can tell you that there's no appetite that I've seen in Frankfort to cut anything, maybe hopefully the fraud. And I'm going to be there to push that cart, to cut the fraud and to hold them accountable and to cut the waste. We need more people, who are willing to stand up with a backbone and say, hey, we're not going to spend any more. The people have been taxed enough. So I'm that candidate. I'm not a career politician. I'm a business owner. I started my first business in the third grade. I've been a business owner for 30 plus years. I've been a magistrate here in Montgomery County. Now this is my 12th year. And it's an unpaid position. I get paid for different things, like if I marry a couple or something,
Right.
but I don't have a salary. They wouldn't even give me an email address. And when I got elected, I asked them, I said, is there a manual? Like, how do I know what I'm supposed to be doing? And I was told, do whatever you want. So I don't think that's a good approach. I think that we ought to have maybe a guidebook for every elected office, and perhaps even a prerequisite. I might get a little flack on this, but PVAs, for instance, you have to take an exam and you have to pass that before you can apply to become a property value administrator. And I think that might be beneficial for some of these other offices. Sometimes people run
Perhaps just
the
a
wrong reason.
competency exam before you become.
That would be great. Something, right? Something. And a lot of people, they get into politics. They have no clue what the job entails. They get in there and they literally do what they want to do. And I think that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, Shannon, let's get into the property taxes a little bit.
Yes, sir.
As we've talked before, I worked in the sheriff's office for 3 years. I went to Louisville with the chief deputy to learn about property tax collection, and I was shocked. I didn't know people could lose their home by not paying their property taxes. For example, guy's got a $300,000 home. He gets fired. Wife's not working. They got 2 kids. They can't afford to pay their property taxes. So somebody buys it on the courthouse step, then they could lose it then on the purchaser of the tax bill foreclosing on their home after 3 years. And certainly I think the maximum was 11 years that we were told. People don't realize that, but in your area, do they print the unpaid property taxes in the local papers?
They do, yeah. They defame the families.
Well, you can see people that are down on their luck that need help. Well, and also I owned apartment buildings like you are now. So if the property taxes go up, I jacked up the rent.
You have to.
And yeah, it's either that or you sell the property. And that makes it hard. And then any tax that's raised, like you said, we're taxed on it. We're taxed on everything but the air we breathe. And that's only because they haven't figured it out. Frankfort once wanted to do a rain tax.
He's not lying.
Yeah, Kyle was the city commissioner before, but
Yeah,
they wanted to tax the amount of rainwater off your roof, sidewalk, and driveway going into the city sewer system, which is bonkers.
Yeah.
But your consumption tax, Can you talk about what that is different than a flat tax?
Sure. Yeah. So consumption-based tax, it only applies to certain items under my plan. Right now, currently, groceries are untaxed, right? So if you go to the grocery store and you buy rice and beans, it's not going to be taxed. If your child wants some popcorn chicken and it's heated up, then yeah, you're going to get hit with that 6% sales tax. So nothing changes there other than with phase 2 of my plan, would like to eliminate sales taxes for the necessities of life. And the necessities of life being one, all food, even food at restaurants. In our city, there's been a lot of uproar. Our mayor is attempting to increase the food tax from 2% to 3%. That represents a 50% jump, 50% sales tax increase on food at restaurants. Well, I'm here to tell you that a lot of folks eat out because it's cheaper to eat out today. And the other component to that is they just don't have the time between the 2 jobs they work to come home and cook. So families aren't being found around the dinner table. We've got to make some drastic changes so we can go back to those days where families are around the dinner table and mom has time to cook at home. I think we also need to go back to the days where it doesn't take 2 incomes to fund a household. So necessities of life would be all food. That includes current grocery items, cold items, but also prepared meals at restaurants, gas stations, etc. And then no tax on utilities, no tax on insurance, no sales tax on new or used automobiles. I would like to copy the plan that Montana has deployed. They also take it a little bit further, and I'd like to copy that as well. In Montana, there's no sales tax on new or used vehicles, RVs, watercraft, or aircraft. There's also no annual property tax on any of those items. So you're probably asking yourself, well, how does Montana make any money off this deal? Well, I'll tell you how they make their money. They make their money by attracting out-of-state dollars. Folks in the surrounding states around Montana,
for example,
and even nationwide, are registering those items in the state of Montana. Montana, you can register your vehicle, boat, RV, or airplane there. They'll send you a license plate to put on your vehicle, and you can set all this up in less than 24 hours. It costs around $300 or so or less, and about $110 a year to maintain that out there in Montana. So I'd like to copy that plan for Kentucky. It's so successful that it made Montana have the top position of having more automobiles registered per person than any other state in our nation. So they have a windfall of profit coming in now that they're able to use to shore up their general fund. It's a wonderful plan because there's no sales tax, no property tax on those items. Some may argue that a boat or an airplane or an RV is a luxury item and should be taxed. I don't disagree. But if we can, excuse me, if we can make it so that those items are not taxed, and we can make it so that by not taxing them, we make more money than we are currently, then how could you say no to that plan?
But are you aware that California is trying to stop that? Because Montana is getting luxury dealerships like crazy popping up.
They are. So that's another item. Montana, I think it was in 2016, they added a vehicle, a luxury item tax of $800, I believe it is, per year to register an item that is valued at $150,000 or more. I would like to copy their plan minus that part so we can eat into Montana's pie too. I'm a business owner. I want to work the state like a business. I want to treat it like a business. As the state becomes more profitable from ideas like that, that's more money left over in your bank account as a Kentuckian. Government has all the money in the world. It doesn't need all the money that's coming into it. We just need to direct those resources better. But California is jealous. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, they envy Montana because Montana has a better plan than they do. And I envy Montana because they have a better plan right now than Kentucky does. So I think that you should be allowed to title those items, your automobile, pickup truck in Montana and states like Montana. But right now, Montana is in a league of its own. It's the only state that offers that great of a deal.
Shannon, Kentucky's constitution has several property tax provisions all the way back to 1892 that they enumerated in the Constitution, including assessment rules. And that's where we get the idea that you have a PVA and they have to make sure that they assess your property and your exemptions. Would your plan require a constitutional amendment and a statewide vote by the people, or do you believe the General Assembly can do this by statute alone?
Sure. So I have 6 state representatives who have endorsed my campaign. 2 of those people are lawyers, and I've spoke with one of them, and he said that it does not require a constitutional amendment. It would only require that if you were to do a local option sales tax, which Kentucky will tell you they don't have, but I disagree. We have one here in Mount Sterling. It's on food. A 2% getting ready to go to 3% local option sales tax for food. I'm not sure how they were able to get around the Constitution to implement that, or if it is constitutional. But my plan does not require a constitutional amendment. Even if it did, would you vote for it?
Yes,
Would you vote to end your property tax? So yes, you would.
Of course, everybody would.
If they want to amend the Constitution to totally clean it up, then I would be in support of that. I believe that the majority of people would support that, but my plan does not. So we can simply take property taxes to zero, and we can use an alternative funding source such as a state sales tax to fund those government services. There's nothing unconstitutional about that. We can do that immediately. So we don't have to amend the Constitution to answer the question.
well, that's good because, as you know, the most recent amendments to the Kentucky Constitution that they have struggled to pass, and a lot of times the ones that even do pass, the local circuit court in Franklin County tends to overturn those. So it's good to hear that. I think it's also good to know that you have a number of individuals who have already endorsed you, who are in the House of Representatives. So it sounds like you have folks there willing to help you and also listen to your ideas, but also support some of the things that you have coming in there. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is. So there's six, like I said, six active state representatives who have endorsed my campaign, along with a U.S. congressman and numerous organizations. These are great organizations such as the Republican Liberty Caucus, Make Liberty Win, Stand for Health Freedom, Constitutional Kentucky, Freedom's Heritage Forum. I was recently recommended by Kentucky Right to Life Victory PAC. I'm very proud of that one because I am 100% pro-life. My wife was adopted. Even if she wasn't adopted, I would still be pro-life. But I wouldn't have my wife and my family, if her mother had not put her up for adoption. So I'm very passionate about that. That's one of my core issues, as is ending the property tax.
Well, I'm adopted. I'm an adopted kid myself, so I appreciate that effort. The other issue that I see on here is that property taxes do go to local revenue. Sales tax is state level revenue. How do you propose Frankfort from gaining more control over our local schools, counties, fire departments, libraries, emergency services, all the things that the city and counties are paying for right now, based upon the real property amounts that come in? How do you propose not shifting that power grab in Frankfort as well?
Okay, sure. So I think what you're talking about is maybe local control. So maybe changing that, and local control sounds wonderful in theory. Is it always the best avenue? I'm not convinced it is. I'll share a couple instances with you. Here in my hometown of Mount Sterling, Kentucky, our mayor held 4 meetings. There were 30 people, my wife and I being 2 of the 30 that attended these 4 meetings. And 28 of the 30 people opposed an increase in the local option sales tax, going from 2% to 3% on food at our restaurants. And the mayor has pushed forward now and had first reading. I believe there was only one council member who said, hey, the people are taxed enough. Let's not do this. It's not smart. But the others are lockfoot with the mayor. So he's going to pass that. It's already went through first reading, getting ready to come up on second reading. It will pass against the people's will. So is local option the best opportunity or best avenue to protect people and limit government? I don't believe it is. Another example I'll give you is that recently over in Powell County, Kentucky last year in Stanton, the Powell County school system proposed a 16.5% property tax increase. Yes, 16.5% increase. It was going to generate tens of millions of dollars over the upcoming years for the Powell County school system, a school system that has lost more than 25% of its students in the past few years. They went from 2,500, I believe, to 1,800 or 1,900 students. and they were applying for the nickel tax plus an exorbitant increase above that. And that would have passed if I had not sent a picture of the notice in our newspaper. They didn't even publish it in their local newspaper. They were trying to hide it, I believe, from the locals. So they published it in the next town over's newspaper, my newspaper. I sent a picture of it to a friend that lives in Powell County and asked him about it, and he wasn't aware of it. And then when I took to Facebook about it, it went viral, as you can imagine, pretty quickly.
Yes.
The school rushed to their Facebook page to turn off comments so the public couldn't comment about it.
Always a good sign. Always a good sign when your local government starts shutting off comments.
Yeah, and you have to question anybody that has comments turned off on their government page or an organization. What are they covering up? What are they hiding? What are they running from? You should. I don't know if embrace is the word, but you should get comfortable with criticism if you're going to be in the hot seat. So it is a hot seat. And I wish people would have more respect for elected officials, because you're subjecting yourself to a lot of scrutiny. Number one, running for a political
100%.
office. A lot of these offices don't pay much. I mean, some of the just about all the local positions, I believe, pay better than state representative. State representative, I think, makes around $30,000 to $40,000 per year. They'll say it's a part-time, but it's a full-time position. Then you have local county officials making $136,000 thereabout per year. So state representative, it just doesn't pay much. It's not something that you do for pay or something to better yourself financially. I have so much respect for people that put their neck on the line and put their name in the hat to run for this office or for Senate or anything above that. I couldn't imagine a federal office, the scrutiny that goes with that. I mean, we're seeing it, right? We're in the middle of campaign season. It's getting pretty nasty.
Yeah, 100%.
Well,
so those two stories.
Yeah.
Let me finish the one in Powell County real quick. So I got fired up about it, and I went over to Powell County, and I went to the school board meeting where they were going to be discussing it. They had 3 meetings set up, and my wife and I attended all 3. And good thing we set up a table outside of all 3 as well. So I said, I think they're going to rule with an iron fist. Every time I've seen a school board propose they're going to increase taxes, they've always done it 100% of the time. So I said, let's go by Walmart. Let's grab a piece of neon poster board and let's write the words, petition volunteer signups. And let's tape that to our table. Let's unfold that table outside of their meeting. And let's put a notebook pad there with a pencil, piece of paper, and have people sign in with their name, address, phone number, email address. And let's go ahead and start organizing at this very first meeting. And it's a good thing we did. By the end of the 3rd meeting, we had 138 people sign in on the notebook that helped us ultimately petition door to door to get enough signatures to force it to a ballot vote. And that was our whole initiative. Was the school board at the first meeting, they said, we're not sure why you're here, Mr. Denniston. You can't stop us. That's basically what they told me. We don't understand why you're here.
This is America, right?
Yeah. So they had to let me speak, and I spoke, and people got excited about what I told them that we were prepared to do. And we had just an outpouring from the community of people raising their hand and stuff to help us. And a lot of people pledged their resources, their time, and their dollars to help us, do that. So very quickly, we gathered the necessary number of signatures. It was a few hundred signatures. You have to gather those in a set time period. I think it's 45 days, but don't quote me. And then it has to go on the ballot. And then once it goes on the ballot, I wasn't allowed to vote, because I'm not a registered voter in Powell County. I'm a registered voter in Montgomery County. However, my wife and I, we own 3 cabin lots. One day we hope to build cabins on, and we were going to do the short-term vacation rental thing, but have decided not to pursue that business. So if anybody want to buy some cabin lots, some of the 3 of the best ones there. But those lots, I think we paid around $30,000 a lot for them. So we have less than $100,000 invested in that market, but that isn't why I went over there. I went over there because it's a principled issue. One trip for me to over there, I'm already upside down on the deal financially to go and fight this stuff. So I guess it's kind of turned from a hobby fighting government into more than that now. But I had to prove a point over there, because the very first meeting they said, "Who are you? Why are you here? You can't stop us." And that's the worst thing you could say to me.
Well, Shannon, before we move on to the other statewide topics that we usually do about this time, just want to be perfectly clear with people. If you eliminate the property tax, you will not eliminate, like Franklin County's got 7 taxing districts. All the money that they normally receive, that would be calculated in on setting the consumption tax, correct?
Well, yes. So the state would collect the funds, and then the state would remit those funds to the cities and to the counties, and then they would disperse the funds accordingly. The county, fiscal court would I see that being in charge because library boards, for instance, are appointed; they're not elected. Same with health boards and extension district boards. So I feel that the body over the body of oversight would be the fiscal court in
Well,
that
how
regard.
would like Oldham County's got a bunch of expensive properties. Harlan County, where I'm from, doesn't. So
Right.
how would the state fairly distribute the money that Oldham County collects now and Harlan County collects or Franklin County collects? Because I thought the consumption tax would be a county-based consumption tax, and it's set through there. And I guess I'm obviously wrong with that but then because we're on the way from north to south to Florida, and the southern part of the country, a whole bunch of our taxes would be by the people that go east to west across I-64 and south 17 on I-71 and I-75.
So when the state collects those monies, they would be able to disperse the funds to where the resources are needed. So you might have a market where there's a lot of funds generated, and some of those funds would be able to be redirected, to some of the lower income communities. So it's going to help a lot of people that way. And then the state would be everything will be fully funded. I guess I
Right.
need to back up and say all
So,
government services are fully funded under my plan. There's no cuts to any government
so
service.
Robertson County or Menifee, they would be able to get, like, if say all the schools are good in a particular county,
Mhm.
they're not in an extra, their salaries are good, all that stuff. If Robertson County or some of the counties in Eastern Kentucky need some help with their schools, are you saying that you all would direct some of
Yes.
that money to help those poorer counties out?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So
that
the
was
money would be
good.
coming at the state level. The state level will be able to disperse those funds where they need to go. But I just want to reiterate, no, everything's fully funded. So my
Yeah.
plan does not cut anything. Now I know that the conservative in you is probably saying, "Why not? You got to cut something." And I certainly want to cut something. I want to cut a whole lot. I think we have probably I don't know. We have way more government than what we need. And the people I used to ask the question, do you want more government or less government? I never heard the first person say that they wanted more government. Do you want more money coming out of your paycheck for taxes or less money? I haven't ever had someone say, I want you to tax me hard or tax me more. So we have enough money coming out going into government. We just need to make sure that it goes where it needs to go. Some schools are losing students. You may
Yep.
or may not know this, but the current statute that governs that, it says basically that a school's student enrollment could go in half, and the amount of money going to that school would double. So let me give you an example. Let's use Powell County as a case study, since that's what I promised them. I said I'll make a case study out of you if we continue down the road, and we did. By the way, the taxpayers voted 60% against that tax increase. So the people of Powell County, the taxpayers there, property owners, won that battle 60-40. But the school basically they kept pushing and pushing, and there was a lot of things that were uncovered in that. And one thing that was uncovered was a hashtag that flaw in the law. And the flaw in the law is this: let's say that a school in Kentucky, government school, has 2,000 students, and let's say they're bringing in what would that be, $40 million? I don't know, 20,000 times 2,000,
Yeah.
$40 million. Okay,
Yeah.
so say they're bringing in roughly $40 million. And let's say that they were to go and lose half of those students. They were to go to 1,000 students. Well, the law guarantees they're going to take in not just the 40 million, but they're going to take in more than that due to compensating rate law under KRS 132.10. So now you're going to have a per pupil cost at that school in Kentucky of $40,000 or more per
Right.
pupil.
It's never going to go down.
It's never
Right.
going to go down.
Right.
So there's a flaw in the law that we have to address. That the 132 statute, the subsection 6, there's a loophole there that still hasn't been closed yet that allows some of our special purpose government entities to take in more money than what I feel they're allowed to by law. They'll hide behind compensating rate. They'll say that they're only increasing it, that they're taking compensating rate, but yet it produces, a double-digit increase. Or they'll say we're taking a 4% increase, and it'll be a 14 or 24% increase.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about that with our PVA we had on last week.
Yeah. Shannon, one of the other things that I think is interesting about your plan is that, for example, Jefferson County, spends $21,000. Their proposed budget is $21,000 or more per student out of their budget, whereas Menifee County is just over $15,000. Now, Menifee County is already probably struggling and would like to. They'd love to have $21,000 per student down there, I'm sure. But the reality is that what this does is it is inherently fair in this sense, because at this point, if the state is governing the allocation that goes out for students, then students in Robertson County and Menifee County and some of these other places are going to have the amounts of money provided to them that are inherently more fair, based upon what Fayette County and Boone County and Jefferson County have as well. Would you agree with that as well?
If they need it. I mean, some schools, they'll I think they would say that they have enough money. It's where the money's going inside the
Agree.
system. So
Agree.
I'm not going to say that they just get blanketed with cash. And also there's something to be said that some of these larger areas, more populated areas, it costs more to hire talent, right? But you could also make the counter argument that maybe it costs more to hire a teacher to travel all the way into Frenchburg, Kentucky.
Correct.
It's kind of off the beaten path. So there's arguments and counter arguments, but the fact of the matter is that we're spending right at $20,000 per child to educate K through 12, and we should be able to do it for a quarter of that or less. So school choice, by the way, I want to remind everybody, it was on the ballot, and there were 35% of Kentucky voters said that they wanted school choice. 35%, the first go round, is huge in my opinion. So I wasn't discouraged by the 35%. What's a little discouraging, like one of my other issues, I don't talk enough about it, but I probably should, is I oppose water fluoridation. And 9 years we've brought up in Frankfort a fluoride choice bill where local water municipalities can choose whether or not they want to purchase that toxic chemical and poison the water with it. And it is poison. Kentucky leads the nation in two things besides bourbon and basketball. One of those is cancer, and the other is water fluoridation. Yeah. Hawaii, conversely, is at the bottom of that list, has the lowest rate of cancer and the lowest rate of water fluoridation. Are the two linked? In my personal opinion, I think so. One day I believe we'll look back on fluoride as we do asbestos insulation and leaded gasoline. And I'm happy to say that because it's a bad thing. It's the only medicine that government adds to the public water supply. And its only benefit ever been proven is as a topical agent. So why are we making people ingest it? But for 9 years, we've tried to make a local option a thing. And next year will be the 10th year. I hope that I'm in a position where I can propose a bill, not just to give a local option for municipalities to choose whether or not to fluoridate, but to ban fluoride. There's several countries that have already banned it, and I would like to join those countries. I think that it has no place in the market. I would like to propose that we ban fluoride. So sometimes it just takes a while to try things to get them, to make that into law, and that will become law. The law, it might be a middle ground situation, with local option for fluoride, but I'm going to push for a full outright ban. I think they should have been more aggressive. A lot of legislators, they try to go where they think they can get the votes, and I think that's sometimes a mistake. That maybe you should lead aggressively, and then maybe maybe you fall on those items as middle ground. So 35% of people said that they want school choice the first time it was ran. The second time, I bet we are a tad over 50%. If not the second time, then I believe definitely by the third time we run that question on a ballot, that it will pass. The other thing we have to change is the question, the way it was worded. It was essentially saying, would you support using taxpayer money for private schools? That's not accurate because you have government schools and non-government schools. Why would you care where a child is educated as long as they are educated at the same level as all other children? And if they are educated, if that education costs saves taxpayers 75%, how could you not be for that? So maybe the question should say something along the lines of, would you support school choice in Kentucky to provide a higher quality of education at a lower cost to taxpayers? Maybe we word it that way.
Yeah, I agree. I want to thank you for coming on and talking to us, Shannon, about all of the things that are going on in your race and in your locale, but also how that affects everyone in the Commonwealth. I personally love the idea of at least reviewing our tax code, not just the IRS code or the Internal Revenue Code, but also the state tax code is well beyond the time frame that needs to be reviewed, and whether that goes into the something very simple like this, and we can cut out thousands of pages and get right down to it. I think that would be beneficial. But I'm very thankful that somebody is even willing to take that common sense business approach to this, and we appreciate that. We're going to talk about a couple other stories. You want to stick around with us? We're going to talk about those as well.
Sounds great.
All right,
Cool.
So, in breaking news this afternoon, Governor Andy Beshear announced a state of emergency tied to rapidly rising gasoline prices, and issued an executive action designed to immediately reduce fuel costs for Kentucky drivers. Here's what he did. Beshear signed an emergency executive order aimed at reducing Kentucky's gasoline tax by 10 cents per gallon, applying to both regular gasoline and diesel. The reduction is expected to become effective May 11th, pending formal approval from the Attorney General's office, which is interesting. Kentucky's current state gas tax sits at 26.4 cents per gallon. So this would bring the effective state levy down to roughly 16.4 cents per gallon during the emergency period. For context, 15-gallon fill-up saves about $1.50, obviously. If you're going to have 25-gallon truck fill-up, it's going to save you about $2.50. It's really going to make a big impact on commercial fleets, farmers, and trucking, obviously. There in July gas tax increase, Beshear also froze the scheduled July 1st increase in Kentucky's gas tax. That planned increase would have taken the gas tax from 26.4 cents up to 27 cents per gallon, and he halted that increase entirely. The governor also activated Kentucky's anti-price gouging protections, signaling the administration intends to closely monitor fuel pricing behavior during the emergency declaration, and that comes from WLWT. That gives the state stronger enforcement posture if retailers exploit market volatility. And I'll tell you right now, Craig and I both believe that there is retail exploitation going on.
And no doubt.
Yeah. And why this is happening, Beshear tied the move directly to the Middle East instability, continued disruption tied to the Strait of Hormuz, higher crude oil prices, national gasoline spikes, broader inflation pressure on Kentucky's household. Kentucky's statewide average gas price today is $4.28 per gallon, with parts of northern Kentucky nearing $5 per gallon. That's politically combustible territory up there, especially right now, probably in the next couple of weeks, especially. But here's the catch. Kentucky gas taxes fund roads, bridges, highway maintenance, state transportation projects, portions of local road funding. That means that while there may be immediate relief right now, there's going to be an impact on the things where money is going to be needed to make fixes. Republicans in Frankfort are almost certain to ask what infrastructure projects get delayed at this point and who pays for that hole. AG Russell Coleman came out immediately within seconds announcing he will sign off on the order, meaning the tax cut is expected to move forward. But politically, he came out swinging. He said, quote, "Of course, Kentuckians should have lower gas prices, but Governor Beshear has vetoed almost every tax cut that comes to his desk. Now he's just playing politics and running for president, as we all know." That's not mild criticism. That is a direct accusation. Shannon and Craig, I'll ask this. Either one of you, Shannon, I'll ask you first. Yeah,
Shannon first.
I want to get your take on this because it touches directly on taxes, government relief, and Frankfurt's role in people's wallets. Do you support Governor Beshear's emergency suspension of the gas tax, and should Kentucky be looking at broader permanent tax reform, including fuel taxes, vehicle taxes, and, as you have discussed, property taxes, rather than a temporary executive action?
Yes. So, I mean, anytime I'm probably going to support anytime a reduction in taxes. So, yes, American families, specifically, Kentucky families, what we're talking about here, absolutely need and deserve some immediate relief. Fuel prices are insane. I paid $185 to fill up my truck the other day for diesel. And I switched from gas to diesel a few years back. I love my diesel truck, but $185 for one tank of fuel. And now it was almost on empty, in all fairness, but $185. I mean, it's just
That's
a lot
crazy.
of money. So, yeah, if we can make that pain or that burden a little less on families right now, we absolutely need to. However, we do need to be mindful that our roads are being pulverized. And in my district, there's a lot of them that need attention. Main roads need attention. They're cracking. They're coming apart. The bridges are falling. It's starting to show cracks. We're not falling completely, but I mean, they're starting to get weak, and they need attention. So the money has to come from somewhere. Let's just be mindful of that. But yes, if we can to make it easier on families. Absolutely.
Well,
Craig,
I
Craig,
think it's just pure politics.
yeah.
The 10 cents a gallon on my vehicle saved me $2.20 a fill up. Now, do I want to save $2.20, which is about a McDonald's double cheeseburger, or do I want to drive on roads that ain't full of potholes? Now, there's got to be another way to solve this problem, but taking money away from the road fund, and granted, I'm a 30-year transportation cabinet employee, so I've seen the in and outs of the IT part of it. So I've seen all the ins and outs of it. But for everybody in Kentucky and across America to complain about roads and bridges, and then you want to cut the tax on the thing that fixes the darn roads. I mean, it's crazy. But everybody wants to pay less, but I want to drive on good roads.
Well,
I don't want to drive on roads that are full of potholes.
This is an emergency order, though, right?
It won't last forever, but it's nothing but politics. This doesn't amount to a hill of beans. It's not going to save anything to taxpayers. What they're going to notice on their monthly bills, I mean, you might save $8 a month. That's a cup of coffee and a Big Mac from McDonald's. That's nothing.
Yeah, I will say, as of this very moment right now, WTI crude is down $4.15, and Brent crude is down $4.08. So that's about a 4% change and about a 3.5% change, and that's as of right now. So obviously, this is volatile. Things are changing as we speak. So I mean, we could be in a situation where very shortly, prices could come down. But that leads, Craig, to what we talked about, last week and beyond, is that they don't take any time in pushing these gas prices significantly higher, but then they take their time. And I understand that we're in the summer months and travel and things of that nature, but they take their sweet time in bringing those prices down. What do you think the governor's statements about implementing price gouging and things of that nature in place? How do you see that affecting anything at this point?
It'll go zero. It won't. Nobody. Just like these bomb threats called in the schools, and they say they're going to do something. I don't remember if anybody's ever been convicted of calling in a bomb threat that probably come from Afghanistan or something.
Yeah.
And how are they going to enforce it? Because in Frankfort we got one chain gas station that sets the price. Opus. I mean, Shannon. When I worked at Fleet Management, I'd buy about 15 million gallons of gas a year for the state fleet. So Opus Oil Price Information Service is one that sets the price of gas, 11 a.m. every Thursday. We got one set of stores here in town that jacks their price up routinely. When it goes up, it'll go up 30 cents a gallon. And just 2 weeks ago, it went up 50 cents a gallon.
Wow. Well, and I
don't even understand that, how they can do it, because it's a commodity. But
I think the issue significantly bothers us because they do this before oil prices
change.
Right. And I'll use a very good example. October 7th, 2024. We had individual gas stations in Franklin County that significantly increased their prices without anything changing. I mean, obviously,
we had nothing to do with it.
It didn't affect us at all. And so, it jumped 30 cents. And I think, and we talk about this a lot. We understand that politics is partisan. I was an elected official. Craig worked on a lot of campaigns, as have I. But there comes a point where, things like commodities and prices of commodities and gouging of prices of commodities, especially when the economy is hurting right now, that's not a partisan aspect that needs to be taken in right now. And I'm frustrated right now with Russ Coleman, and I'm frustrated with the governor's office. I was frustrated with the legislature that they knew this was coming down while they were in session and didn't take a hard look at trying to pass something here. So I think there's a lot of blame to be passed around, but nobody's fixing the issue. And Shannon, your thoughts on that?
Open more gas stations. I'm a fan of the free market. If
we got 3,300 in Kentucky now.
if there's bad players there, then I mean, get in the space with them, I guess. I mean, create a supply of more gas stations. I'm not a big fan of government meddling in business
I
and
agree.
government manipulations of the markets. We see it far too often. I'm not sure of all the regulations on gas stations today, but maybe we need to look at that. Maybe we need to pump more of our own oil instead of importing oil. And I believe are we the largest exporter of oil now? But maybe we need
we
to
are
ramp it up
by a
even
mile. It's not even close.
So we need to ramp
But
it
there's
up.
a difference. Yes, getting in the weeds again, but me and Kyle do this all the time. America's refineries are for heavy crude, but the crude oil that we produce is called light sweet crude. That's why there's West Texas Intermediate and Brent on the oil charges. So we haven't opened up a refinery since 1978. Most of our oil, 70% of our oil comes from Canada and Mexico. So that's what our refineries were built for. But now President Trump just about 5 weeks ago green lighted a new light sweet crude refinery for Brownsville, Texas, so that it will take down the dramatic swings we're seeing in our gas prices, because we'll not only sell our oil on the world market, we'll also sell. We'll refine our own oil in Texas, and then we'll ship it around the United States. So it won't be us importing oil from the OPEC, Canada, and Mexico. We already produce 13 million barrels a day in fuel oil, but it goes on the market because we can't refine our own oil in our own country, and most people don't realize that.
So we've got to fix that.
Yeah, absolutely.
President Trump's trying to do that with that $300 billion refinery in Brownsville, Texas.
Of course, that takes time, but it's another one of those things. Like President Reagan always said, the scariest phrase you can ever hear is, "We're from the government. We're here to help." So I think if we can get government to get out of the way and let the market truly let the market work, we'd be in much better shape. I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see. While Kentucky.
Can we pull anything out of Venezuela? I mean, last I checked, I think they were paying 8 pennies per gallon for fuel.
Well, they were paying when they were the fourth richest country on the planet, they were paying 12 cents a gallon. Now, granted, it is heavily subsidized by the Venezuelan government, but still it was 12 cents a gallon when we were paying $2.12, $2.25, I think is what it was. And like Citgo, the Citgo gas stations around the country, Venezuela owns those, or used to anyway. They're all Venezuelan gas stations. So everything, like my restaurant, everything I do is everything I receive comes in on a semi. Mm-hmm. As the prices of gas go up, the cost of food goes up to me on the wholesale market, but we can't afford. We've only raised our price once since we've been open. We eat the loss because we don't want to lose our customers, because right now with these high gas prices, people are not going out to eat as much as they can. They're not buying as much food at the grocery store, and they're visiting their doctor's office less than they normally would.
Yeah, absolutely.
Translates to everything we buy.
It absolutely does. Craig, I think that's where we're going to have to leave it tonight. You got anything else, Craig, before we?
No, I just want to thank Shannon.
Yeah, absolutely.
I found him on Facebook and reached out to him. We've had a couple of phone calls prior to this. I love his plans. I love what he's trying to do. I hope he's successful. I hope he wins, and I hope he can bring in that. And then, Shannon, when you come to Frankfort, like many of our legislators, they come up and eat at Da Vinci's Pizza.
I'm going to come eat some pizza. I love pizza.
And mark this down. I will be lobbying you for Frankfort and Franklin County.
Well, as always, this section of the show is sponsored by Da Vinci's Pizza.
I'm a salesman. Ain't no lie.
You know what you're doing.
Shannon, where can people find you online and also learn more about you?
Sure. So Facebook, I'm on Facebook. I have a couple pages there, my personal page and then the campaign page. The personal page is more popular and has been on there longer. And then the website, if you'd like to donate or sign up to help us door knock, those are the two things that we can use help with right now is donations, monetary donations. This is a very expensive campaign. It's probably the most closely watched state house representatives campaign that there is right now. And we can certainly deploy those resources immediately. And then
You have
also
5 opponents. You have about 5 opponents.
no, there's 3 Republicans. There's no Democrat challenger. So the race gets decided on May 19th.
Okay. Cool.
Website where you can sign up is Denniston. That's spelled D as in Denniston, or D as in David, Enniston. So Dennis with a Ton, FORKY.com, Denniston4ky.com. And when you go on there, you can click donate, you can click volunteer. On the main page, you can see the endorsements, my positions on the issues. If you have any questions at all, my phone number is on the bottom of that website and my social media links. But thank you guys so much, Kyle and Craig, for having me on the show. Nice to meet you, gentlemen. I look forward to eating some pizza, at least with you, Craig, and maybe you'll be there too, Kyle.
I will. I'm sure I will be. A big thank you to Shannon Denniston tonight for sitting down with us.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And you're not going to be done with us. So when you win, you're going to come back here and we're going to talk about some tough things, especially when stuff starts getting passed and all the big decisions are going to be made up there. So we really appreciate you coming on the show. And for all of you all watching us, we greatly appreciate it. You've helped us become the fastest growing podcast in Kentucky on YouTube. We can't thank you guys enough.
Yep.
For Craig Blanton and for our guest Shannon Denniston, and for all of you watching, listening at home, thank you for spending part of your evening with us. If you enjoyed tonight's discussion, obviously, like always, like, subscribe, and share the podcast because every share helps us build a bigger platform, and so other people can hear and talk about real issues and real Kentucky voices. And until next time, this is Apex News, above the noise. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night.